Hey, hello everyone. Hi America. How's it going today? What are you doing? Hope you're having a good day. Hope you're having a wonderful day. It's Labor Day weekend. I think it's August or September the 4th today. I think so. I'm a little confused right now about the actual date. And but it's beautiful outside. I've been out there earlier today and did a couple of things. I went on a picnic, and I also went on a picnic yesterday too. Just and they're really simple. It's not like a major basket of food. It's just packing this. It's just taking my lunch, putting it in a paper bag, and going to the park and enjoying eating outdoors. I really do enjoy it because it's peaceful, it's quiet, gets me out of the studio here, out of the fort for a little while to get some fresh air uh, and to just, something about nature, something about the blue sky, something about the clouds. I'm always fascinated about how this all connects. Hope you're curious about that stuff too. My name is Michael Tomlinson. I am an Americanteer. Glad to be here. Ooh. Um, and so what's going on in America right now, and it's just one thing after another. And of course, people are going to agree with me when I say you hear it's nothing but bad news, bad news, bad news. And you're right. It is just a lot of negative news. I don't say bad, but it's very negative and in its own way. And it also uh, lays little bitty seeds of fear into people in its own way. So it's the birth of fear, that starts to grow, and with all the negative news or negative people or negative actions that we experience in our everyday life. You kind of compound that all together. And we can't, even sort that out, it's just a pain in the butt. Why do we have to do that? So, and so I question fear. Why do we have to live in fear? I don't think we should. I don't think we have to. And people say, yes, we got to be fearful of the government, let's say, or the media, or whatever. There's a fear factor built on or toward. Um, I I agree. In some cases, it's just it's I agree because the system is broken and it's dysfunctional, and so yeah, yes, it's gonna. I agree to that part because I know it makes people think in negative ways, and they start to blame one thing in a negative way, and then they start to spread more fear. It's always kind of like this fear thing going on, and we Americanteers, if we refuse to accept your fear or the nation's fear. Why do we? I don't know why we would even fear the government. Why are we fearing politicians? It's our country. We are the people. What is there to fear? Why would we fear and be paranoid? That's what I think, and that's what I say. And I ask, why? 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 We it's our country. We the people. And now we fear, what's, parts of our country. We spread negative fear amongst on top of other more negative fear and anger. And, it starts, like I said, it starts to compound. But the seed is fear. And the fear starts to dominate people's life, starts to dictate our lives. And forget that stuff. We can't let fear control us. What are we really fearful of? What are we really scared of? Can you tell me that? I know you're going to, we can go back to the bad news and what media tells us, and there's a fear factor with all that, which I agree that it is negative, and it is bad news. But we don't have to deal with it with fear. We don't have to deal with that fear factor if we don't want to. So I'm trying to say that, because that kind of built up media fear is just manifested. We understand it can be make-believe. There's no fear at all. Oh man, I'm always knocking that light over. But no fear at all. That's just crazy. But they spread fear. They help spread negative news in its own way, which manifests itself into fear. And then Americans start living a more fearful life, and we don't really exactly know why. I mean, and I hear general specifics like, you gotta be fearful. There's criminals, there's homeless, there's, people that do not have, and they'll attack you. And, and those are, yes, okay, I agree, yes, that's what's happening. But why, we should not fear that as Americanteers, is what I say. Why do we fear that? Why are we fearing other Americans to hurt us or hurt you, because we think they are. And we spread that message to the next person, and to the next person, and to the next person. And before we know, we have a country full of fear. And there's no faith. There's no hope. The fear just brings in negatives, brings in anger. That's what it does, man. It makes people, fear and anger so like cousins. They're like buddies, man. And once we start living in a fearful society, we start to act out in angry ways, passive-aggressive ways. We start to feel like we're all everyone is just privileged to do whatever the heck they want to do. There is no common ground. We're not a family anymore. We're just individuals running around out there, and based on fear, then it just doesn't matter. Things don't matter. There's no moral. There's no responsibility. There's no, accountability, to want to build. And I don't want to overuse the word faith, even though I've been overusing the word fear, but, positive action can cure the fear factor too. Without, to say faith. That freaks you out. But faith does the same thing. Having some faith, which means faith, and I don't mean just like this blind, oh, well, I'll just, have faith and deal with the fear. No, the faith is, will give you the message, that what positive actions we can take to overcome, to oversee, to sidestep the fear that's going on, the fear that's being spread, or to at least understand that's what's going on with it. And it doesn't hold a value. And people are putting a lot of value on fear and less value on faith. Or less value on being innovative, less value on being creative. I mean, it's more the fear. And it can be inside personal fear, or people just don't want to grow up. A lot of young adults living at home still, and it's just fearful for them when they go out in the real world. That's an interpersonal thing. It's not like negative, and they probably blame all the negative news around saying, look, mom and dad, this is going on, that's going on. It's all, bad, negative news. And it makes me scared, makes me fearful. So, I can't go out there and do what we think I can do. Because I'm going to live in fear, pretty much. I'm going to hide behind fear. Or I'm going to use fear as a weapon to somehow manipulate conversations, or to convince people that they need to be fearful. And if someone's trying to convince you to be fearful of something, be cautious, be careful, beware. Because that's just not a healthy message to spread. Even though they think they're spreading, like they might think of it as a good fear. Yes, maybe. Like you have to hear this because it just builds more fear. But instead, we need to, back that up or override it with faith too, or with positive action or with positive way of thinking. May not be no action. Just might be a mindset, and that's simple enough. And a lot of people just don't even know that. We just get caught up in the compound of this negative energy that's going on in America, and it starts to build more and more fear. It's a tough one. It's gonna be a tough hurdle to jump over, to get over in America, because a lot of Americans are operating in fear. And they will not admit that. They will totally deny it because they're like, I don't fear anything. But they are really operating because they're scared. They're just scared people. Which is sad, in its own way, because it's kind of like being, I don't know, I hate to use this kind of word, but, it's kind of like being a coward, but then back it up with big barks, it's a very cowardly thing, in a weird way, because, people just don't want to step up with faith and step up to a higher plane or to step up to a higher road. It just kind of like stays at this fear level. And people start to defend the fear, start to fight for it. Like it's my fear. I'm going to fight for it. Fight for fear? And that's what I'm trying to get. We got to think about this as people. I got to think about this. You got to think about that too. Like, we all got to think about where it's coming from. And not only where it's coming from, but what we're allowing it to do to us as individuals. See, that's the thing, is that it's always going to be there, but do we allow it into our brain? Do we allow it into our mindset? Do we allow it to start to taint, our love, taint our soul, darken us up, because the fear is there, And once fears are, it's a weak link, and it allows other um, bad elements to jump in because we allow it to jump in because of fear. I don't know if that just made sense or not. I think I'm talking about like the spiritual battle, in my own way. But that's true too. And that's, kind of like the seed and the spawn of fear. It's lack of faith. And I don't mean like, if you go to church, you have faith and that's all said and done, but it doesn't mean you live a life, but you still go out in the real world and act and live out in fear. So it really is a lifestyle. It's something we have to incorporate when we unite as Americanteers. We'll understand that that has its own place, and we don't operate. We refuse to operate in a reactive state of fear. We don't believe in fear. I keep asking that question: what are we fearful of? You know, and people give me all kinds of answers, but it still doesn't really say we should be fearful of it. Because these are things that we can become powerful and change. So fear is saying, like, I'm powerless. And I don't believe you're powerless. I believe together we can be powerful. And the more people we get to unite as Americanteers, the more powerful we will become. And we'll conquer that fear. I won't say faith, but with love, with unity, with common sense, with hope. We can start to get rid of and dissolve fear in other people, other Americans. Because like I said, it's just asking a question. What are you really fearful? What are you really scared of? What makes you so fearful? Is it because you're reading, going through the internet and finding bad news, negative news? It adds more to the fire of fear? Well, if you're doing that, then you're just setting yourself up. And no one's told you that yet. And the more you talk about it, the more you should realize that's what you're doing. You're living under fear. You're acting out in fear. And if you really think about that, you'll realize that you don't want to do that. We don't want to live in fear. There's nothing to fear. That's just a grand illusion that we build, and society helps build up too. So this grand illusion of fear, is not as real as we think it is. And especially if we unite together as Americanteers, we will conquer fear. We will get rid of that stuff. We'll realize it's not even worth talking about. Because it's just its own thing, and we don't have to be involved in that bubble of just whatever's going to produce fear. Because we don't have to. I mean, we don't. If that's all, because that's what it's meant to do, doesn't mean we have to pay attention to it. So we gotta. We'll come to that understanding as we grow together, as Americanteers. Okay, so no more fear, and I'm talking to myself as much as I'm speaking out right now too. And so I'm letting myself know I cannot live in fear. I cannot afford to live in fear. Fear can paralyze you. Really just stop you in your tracks. right there. Like, paralyzed for the whole day, for a week, a month. And it'll start to, like I said, it's just something that taints the soul and starts to eat away and open the doors for other negative energy to come into your life and start to dominate and control us. We don't have to do that at all. We do not have to let fear dictate to us, how we want to live our lives. Well, thank you. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you for hearing me out. Yet again, I appreciate that. I'm thinking about change up the format. So I've been doing the same format here for well over a year. And so when I go through the videos, it all just kind of looks the same, except for the titles. But it's just this same background, different lighting maybe, different picture. But for the most part, it's just kind of like the same thing. And before I would venture off into parks and set up and do my thing, or go to locations around the city. And I kind of miss those days too, but I'm thinking of ways to be a little creative, be a little bit more innovative, to keep making videos, but with a whole different vibe, I guess, a whole different vibration, a whole different kind of feel. We'll see if I can pull that off. I'm just the messenger. I'm doing my best. Help me out here. These things take time. Okay. Well, I'm going to go. Talk to you later. Peace, love, bye.